was a movie, and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello and welcome to Dad's Dating After Divorce, the only podcast addressing the wild and crazy environment of dating post-divorce. My name is Jude Sandball. I am the founder of The Divorced Dadvocate, and my co-host every week is Dallas Bluth, the founder of Black Box Dating. Dallas, how are you doing today?
Doing fabulous, Jude. Happy to be entering into the holiday season here. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. Love this time of year.
Oh, man, it is my favorite. Thanksgiving is one of my favorites as well. I'm going to have like 20, 30 people tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow we're recording the day before. So gearing up, but am excited to talk about our topic today, which is basically what is that first date rule of who pays on the date, right? And I'll tell you the origin is my daughters and I were having dinner last night, and they're 15 and 17, and we were talking around this a little bit. My youngest had an experience at earlier in the year where she went to one of the dances and the guy didn't pay, and she was all upset, and so just we were talking about it last night, and they asked me, well, Dad, do you always pay when you go on the date? And so we kind of got into this discussion with the 15 and 17-year-old. And then I was thinking, wow, this would be a really great one for me to hear what Dallas has to say, because Dallas is enlightened. Dallas deals with this all the time. And so, it's, as dads, it's kind of a whole different ballgame now. We're dating post-divorce. Once upon a time, I think it was probably pretty cut and dry that you paid. The guy paid on the date. You asked her out, and you paid. Now we've got, we've got a whole different dynamics. We've got the whole equality thing. We've got some women, like there's lots of women I've been out on dates with make more money than I do, and that's a reality too. And then we've got other things like alimony and child support and all of that stuff that factor into our mentality around this, right? So
leaky pipes that are draining the resources.
Right. So we've got all that going on, but here's for me what the really confusing part is despite all of what we just described and all of what some would say is progress, right? Let's put it in air quotes, because that's subjective, right? That word progress. The vast majority of dating expectations have not shifted that much when it comes to, especially like the first date. And so what I'm labeling this is the chivalry paradox, right? Okay. The chivalry paradox. She wants to be treated as an equal, but she also wants to be courted. And like, there's nothing that's going to kill the romance or the vibe faster during the courting process of pulling out your phone and calculating what's 50-50 on a date, right? So let's talk. Is there a first date rule? Like who should be, like, how do we go about traversing this awkward weirdness? And maybe we can get into some details, and I'll give you some scenarios and maybe some real life, things that I've encountered too.
Wow. Okay. I had like 6 different places to start while listening to you introduce this topic, and I'm trying to remember what some of them are. Okay, let me answer real quick. Are there rules now? No, there are not.
Okay.
And one of the principles I tell all the guys and also the women that I encounter is everybody comes to the table with their own rule book. And if you think or you assume that somebody else is playing out of the same rule book that you are, you're going to get butthurt a lot. And that's on you. You cannot expect other people to be playing out of the same rule book as you. Our society is simply not that homogenous in its behavior anymore. You can't do that. Okay,
so I'm going to get very confused.
You're going to get confused, but you're also going to get hurt because you're like, why did they misbehave? they didn't misbehave according to their own set of rules as far as how these things go. And when you realize that it's not personal, they're playing from a different rule book than you are, that unhooks you from your own emotional reactions. And that is always where you want to be leading from as a man, is a non-reactive place where you have compassion and understanding that other people are coming from other places. Okay, but
that's a really good point. Well, that's a really good point, because the mindset that you go into the date with is going to set the tone for the entire relationship, really, if you want to look at it that way. So that's a good point. Be in a good place, right? Don't get butthurt about anything.
Yeah.
Try not to get butthurt about anything. I mean,
yeah,
is to whatever extent you can, but that's a really good point.
Good. Okay, so I want to actually rewind all the way back to the story with your daughters. And, so she's 15. And I'm going to say that, I mean, I don't know, but I'm going to guess that she was kind of bummed because the guy not paying, I'm going to guess, made her feel less special. I'm just going to guess that at the core of it was probably part of what she felt. And we're talking about a 15-year-old girl here. So like, we don't get any more young and progressive than you're still in high school, middle school. Like that's about as young and progressive as it gets. And here was a girl who felt, not thought. It doesn't sound to me like she's coming from a righteous place, or that, this is supposed to be like, that would express itself more like frustration or anger or something like that. Instead, it's like she was bummed, I'm going to guess, because her date didn't make her feel as special as she wanted to feel. Yeah. How on or off base am I with that?
Yeah, you're spot on, because we've and this isn't the first time we had the discussion last night. She always brings up and laughs about the fact that she didn't order the fried rice, which was more expensive, right? And she would have if she knew she was paying herself. She was trying to be conscientious and nice and not. And so we laugh about like, just get the fried rice, right? Don't worry about it. It's okay. But and that's kind of the joke. But also in that she has talked about disappointment, right? Like feeling special disappointment, and she's commented on other ways in which he didn't throughout the date convey to her that she felt, that she was special, and that she looked nice, or that he was excited to be on a date with her. All some of these things, and granted, he's a teenage boy, so there's a ton of grace around that with him, because look, we're decades down the road learning some of this stuff, and now trying to share what little we do know with some of the other guys to help. But you're exactly spot on, which is that experience, that feeling that she wanted to have in the moment, and at dinner, and on a date, when in the dance, and all that just did not transpire.
Okay, like I'm sorry, my heart is going out to your daughter right now, because
it was so sad.
Well,
right?
I mean, because here's the thing. Like, okay, first of all, who is not guiding this boy? Okay, like a lot of us, like growing up, we lacked guidance. We did, but somebody needs to step up and help guide this young man. Yes, we do cut slack for teenage boys, but then again, if you're dating a teenage girl, like they don't get nicer than teenage. It's absolutely. Like, the teenage boy should be on point, at least with some of the basics. Somebody should be cluing him in. We can't expect him to clue himself in, but older men should be, and I mean his dad, should be mentoring and helping him do it. Okay, but here's the part that like totally breaks my heart, is your daughter was actually going above and beyond to be super conscientious by ordering the white rice rather than the brown rice, saving him $1.25 or whatever, right. But and that really needs to be acknowledged. That really needs to be appreciated. And when he didn't pay for her, I know he didn't know she was making those choices, but let's unpack that for a minute. Okay. Women put, I don't know, something like 10 times the amount of effort into their appearance on average than men do. Okay, so women show up on dates and they have spent way more time grooming, cleaning, and dressing themselves and putting together their outfit than men. On average, there is no doubt about this. For the most part, it goes unappreciated by men. here, your daughter's in a passive role. She's making choices about what she is or isn't going to eat to try to be conscientious and to make the experience nice for her date so he doesn't have to pay more. A lot of times women are making these choices. They're doing these things to be accommodating, and they're not going to tell us about it. They're not going to go, hey, by the way, I spend 45 minutes, shaving, waxing, putting on makeup, picking out the right dress and shoes. Like, they're not going to tell us that. They're just going to do it. Okay, we need to assume that we need to show our appreciation right out the door for the effort that they made to be there. Let's also put into that the fact that women in general are across the board more vulnerable than men. Them coming to the table brings that vulnerability. We want to show an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And so, all of that. Now, go ahead.
So let's talk about that, because we live in Colorado too. So kind of these dressing norms and coiffing norms are a little bit different than maybe New York City or Los Angeles or somewhere else. But I genuinely appreciate when a woman shows up and looks put together. That's the best way I can say is put together. Like, it doesn't have to be designer or whatever, but if she looks really good and she shows up and like it's just, and you can tell that she's taken, if she shows up in like sweats and her gym shoes and a hat on or whatever, you can tell that there has not been an effort made. And I think that that is a real good gauge, like off the bat, as to the level of effort that somebody's going to put into something. And now, we're going to go into maybe like coffee dates versus drinks versus dinner here in a little bit. So obviously that depends upon what you are doing and how you are doing. But I really feel you can, and tell me if you feel so. When I see somebody immediately, I can tell effort, no effort.
Yes. Yeah, that's the word.
Effort, I want to acknowledge it, like, oh, hey, I love that outfit. Yes. Or if it's a cool hat or whatever, or your hair is really neat, or that's a unique pendant or whatever. I want to acknowledge that if she does look, if she doesn't, then I don't say anything, or I might even give a little neg on something like, oh, you didn't get the notice to actually get out of your pajamas, right? Or something, funny or goofy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned different styles in different cities, different areas. I think it's completely true that, we're both in Colorado. It's a more relaxed, active lifestyle. But whether that's the style or, you're dressed up New York, style or whatever it is, I'm going to say these are on an x-axis, they're sort of equal in, what works for the environment that you're in, what works for the particular occasion that you're in, is you're picking the appropriate style that matches. That's the x-axis. The y-axis is the effort axis. So how much effort did someone put into that particular style? You can still be dressed for a hike and look really good, or you can be looked like you're dressed for a hike and, you just rolled out of a U-Haul van, because somebody kidnapped you, 2 weeks ago. Like you can have very different levels of effort that you're putting it out. Right. And you nailed it when you said that what you want to talk about when you're making a woman feel special, when you're giving her a compliment, you want to compliment her effort. And I'm going to put with that, you're going to want to compliment her choices. We had one episode, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, that was about cold approach. One of the basic elements of cold approach, I've heard this from women. I just had a conversation the other day with yet another woman. She was talking about men approaching her in Walmart. And she was talking about how much, these guys, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. Yeah. And they'll come to it. And I said, and I'm like, well, what would have worked? And I said, what if they complimented you on something more specific that was your choice that you had made in what you wear? And so you're complimenting the effort and the choice rather than the final result. And she said, oh yeah, that would have completely made me more comfortable and relaxed. Women want to be acknowledged and they want to feel special for the choices that they've made. By the way, guys, as another tip, when you eventually go back to that woman's apartment, that's like seeing her dressed up for the first time. That apartment, if it looks good, did not happen by accident. That woman has made dozens or hundreds of individual style and interior design choices. She has matched those colors. She has matched those textures. She has picked out those pillows. It does not look like the inside of a magazine by accident. And all of that is deliberate effort. It's money that's being spent and choices that are being made. Acknowledge that. Help her see and feel special, because you're seeing the person that actually made these choices. I know we're on a little bit of a tangent, but would you agree with that?
No, I think that's really good. I think that's funny. Maybe we do a little whole episode on, like, so, you don't want to just plop down on the couch when you get there. If you do something like look at things and ask about things and their apartment and, hey, tell me about this piece, or that's an interesting picture. What's the background of that? Like, that is really going to set the mood in getting her to open up and feel comfortable and having you in her space. But maybe, that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. But I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to ask her. It's like, hey, can you help me pick out some furniture? It shows that I really respect what she does, and that I want to make the effort too. And I do make the effort, but that maybe her skill level is a little higher than mine. That is complimenting a woman. I'm not being self-deprecating when I say that, because we can always do better, but I'm inviting her into my world. And it's a very indirect way of complimenting her on her style.
Yeah.
All right.
And can I point out something else? And maybe you can expand on this a little bit. And then we'll get back onto the who pays in the first date thing. But I think this is important information. Is you said complimenting something other than looks, which are something that is like, we're kind of born like, I got the receding hairline. There's not much I can and can't do with some of that stuff. Yeah. But if you're complimenting on behavior and behavior specifically around choices and like the behavior, the choices to really take the time to look good, or go pick out a good outfit, or have some, or do your nails. Like that's an effort, right? That is something that then they have control of, that you can recognize, right?
Right. Yes. So basically, if you're talking about her genetics, she has no control over that. Right. And she gets complimented all the time. The problem is, as men, we are wired to look at the genetics. So we're talking about what comes first in our mind. Nothing wrong with that. But have that as an internal dialogue with yourself going, boy, do I love her natural blonde hair and blue eyes. Okay, that's genetic. Guys, you're not going to get very far by complimenting her out of the gate, by complimenting her on her natural blonde hair and blue eyes. Just not going to get you very far. You can recognize that to yourself, that you're attracted to that. You want to compliment her on what she has done with herself. The effort that she's made, the choices that she's made. One, I'm not going to take credit for this because I didn't come up with it, but it was a female dating coach that said, when you want to approach someone in the street, talk about a woman in the street, talk about three things: what she's wearing, what she's holding, or what she's doing. All of these things, what she's wearing, what she's holding, and what she's doing, reflect back to the person that she is and choices that she's made, things that she's doing with herself. We've all heard, women say they want to be seen by a man and not just attracted to and objectified. What's beneath that, and this is coming back to my friend I was just having a discussion with about Walmart cold approaches this weekend, is she feels pressured. She feels put on the spot if all she senses is his genetic attraction to her genetics. Yeah. If that's all she senses, she's like, okay, well, what happens when my genetics aren't so great anymore and I'm getting older and I don't look the way you want? Are you just going to move on to the next most attractive genetic option?
Right.
Or are you attracted to the person? And do you even know the difference? Do you know the difference between the way that I just look naturally and how much of this was effort? Because that speaks to how much are you actually going to appreciate the effort that I put into this? Or how much of it are you just assume that I look this way, even though I do yoga 4 times a week and I spend all this time putting myself together? The woman wants to know that you're not just there because she looks attractive and you want to consume her. She wants to know that you have an appreciation and awareness, and that you're talking about the person that she is, which is her choices and her behavior, and not just the package that she's presenting. It's incredibly deep and difficult to pull those two apart, but women totally will respond differently to your cold approach. So
Yeah, well, and that goes back to what we talked about in the challenge we gave guys last week, which was warm interactions. Just
Yes.
learn to have warm interactions with people in general, and if you can carry that through to having warm interactions with a woman that you are attracted to, then that's going to go a long way. So just put off the attract. You don't have to put off the attraction. Just know that you're attracted to her, but
Yes.
that's not what you're having the interaction about. You're having a warm interaction with somebody that you are attracted to. So that's why the challenge we gave to the dads listening last week was learn to have warm interactions with everybody. And then when you meet somebody that you're attracted to, you're just naturally going to have a warm interaction that's going to lead to potentially having a date with that person. So it becomes natural, right? A natural way for you to show up in the world.
Yes. Exactly.
So,
yeah. All right, dude, we are so far off topic.
Let's get back to that playbook, right?
Yeah.
Well, we get off on tangents, but they're really important tangents. I feel so. I'm never, I'm never upset that we do that. So we show up with our different rule books, right? Like I'm thinking one thing, she's thinking whatever, equality, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be the have to be emboldened, not to embolden. I don't want to be. I don't have to be.
You're talking about being overly assertive.
Yeah. I don't want to be indebted to this person because they're paying for me, and I feel obligated, right? Obligated or indebted to the person, et cetera. Like, so they're showing. How do we mitigate? How do we mitigate that, right? Okay. So and I'll just use myself as an example. Like, I always want to pay. I'm planning on paying. Right. Okay. But I'm doing the asking, right? I'm making the plan. I'm the one that's determining. Usually it's going to be a coffee or a drink date in the beginning, like low vibe, not high vibe, but just low intensity, something that's not, a big deal. So I feel comfortable with that. I'm just planning on it. Yeah. Like, okay, so that's how I'm showing up, but she's showing up differently. Like, what's the communication like? What happens? Like, how do I deal with it? Like, if she doesn't want me to pay. Yeah.
Again, like 5 different ways to take this. Okay, so
we still got another 40 minutes.
First of all, okay, cool. All right. So first thing I would start with is if you're the one whoever is inviting the other person out, I think there's a certain expectation that, man or woman, not that person that extends the invitation pays for everything necessarily, but I think the person inviting the other person to join them is already in the lead. I think it makes sense that they're paying 50% or more of what's going on. I think that just makes sense. I think that's a nice expectation. If I was to invite you out to have a drink, it's weird that I would expect you to pay for them. Like that to me, that feels backwards.
Yeah.
For me, if I'm inviting you out to a drink and I said, well, hey man, thanks for coming. I'm going to treat for these. For me, it feels like a natural follow-up to an invitation. I don't think it's necessarily always expected. It obviously depends on the context. But I want to keep that in mind. Remember that this isn't entirely neutral. When you extended the invitation, you were inviting her into an experience. You're leading that experience. Paying for some or all of that experience, to me, feels like a natural extension. So that's the first thing. Second thing, okay, I think it's good for us to let ourselves off the hook, particularly if we have never seen this person in person before, to let ourselves off the hook of the expectation that we have to pay for everything. So, if you're grabbing coffee with somebody that you met on a dating app, okay, it's coffee, they're $4 a cup, something like that. We're not talking about a lot of money here. And that's another reason that I like low pressure, low commitment, first meetings, first encounters. It's a vibe check. Sometimes it might turn into date, but the idea isn't to start it out like it's a date because you've never even met in person. Mm-hmm. But even in those situations, I look at it as this is a blind date, really, because I've never met this person in person. I have no obligation. This is me letting myself off the hook. I have no obligation to pay for a stranger whose company I might actually detest. I'll give you an example. This was, I think, a year or two ago. I went on a first date. It was drinks, at a bar. with this woman. She was having a bad day. She was having a bunch of things. I had met the bartender once there like a month and a half ago, and he remembered me. The date was absolutely awful. It was one of the most unenjoyable, hostile, caustic, like exchanges I've ever had with a woman from a dating app. She wasn't attacking me, but she was in such a crabby mood. It was really quite bad. And then, and it lasted less than an hour, and I'm glad that I actually got there early and just ordered my own drink. But when she left, I went over to the bartender and I said, that was the worst first date ever from online dating. And he said, that was a first date. I thought that was your ex-wife. He thought that this woman was chewing me out. He couldn't hear anything. He was just seeing the energy, from like 15, 20 feet away. And the reason I bring up this story is you don't know when you're meeting somebody from online what they're going to be like. Should I feel obligated to pay for that woman's drinks when she is being, a very unenjoyable, not even polite person? Heck no. Yeah. I really don't. And I'm going to let myself off the hook of the expectation that I have to do this, or I'm not having a great time and she wants to have a second drink. There is no obligation for me to continue to stay there, continue to entertain, and certainly not to pay for this experience.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think what you described, if you're trying to create, so our ultimate goal is, this is potentially somebody we want to spend a lot of time with. Maybe depending on who you're dating, it could be a long-term relationship or getting married or whatever. If you're wanting to create an environment for what that's going to be like, or for somebody to be attracted to you and your life, you've got to keep that in mind when you are like your first date. Like, you're not going to get a second chance at a first impression. Yeah. Okay, you've heard that line lots of different times, but you're setting a tone going forward for the rest of this relationship. And so, like you said, if you are taking the lead, hopefully you've taken the lead and you've asked her. It'd be kind of like inviting somebody over to your house for a barbecue and then asking them for $10, like, for the burgers and the barbecue and the food and stuff, right? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you wouldn't do that with your friends. So that shouldn't be the expectation. But I do like what you said, which is, like, if this is just a terrible experience and she's not showing up in the right way, then you're not obligated to anything. And the other thing I will say, and that I see this seems to be more the case with online dating, there are some women out there just looking to get a free dinner or get free drinks or just get over on somebody. Yeah. I've gotten good enough to weed that out before we even get there, right? Like, on a date. But just be aware that you're not obligated. Like, you can simply say, split the check, pay it, and leave. Yeah. If you figured out that that's what it is and it's not in alignment with what your intentions are for dating, right? If you're showing up and you're truly, genuinely doing all the things we talk about on all of our episodes and trying to create an environment and an experience for her, and you figured out pretty quickly that she's there, she's not ordering the white rice, she's ordering the ribeye steak, and then it's, that she's not engaged, that she's not interested.
She's mooching.
You're not obligated, guys. You are not obligated. Right. This is a day and age where she's not going to be destitute if she has to pay her half of the bill. And, that is part of showing up in the right way. So I appreciate that you said that, because I don't know that, I've always subscribed to that, right? Like, there's lots of times where I haven't.
Yeah, and it's hard, even though I know it and believe it and remember it, it's still hard for me to do it because I'm setting a boundary there. And if I feel like somebody's mooching off me, that they're there just to order the most expensive things and have a man pay for them because it boosts their ego or who knows what, and I realize that I'm being taken advantage of, that somebody is draining me, my resources, my time, my attention, and my money, I'm going to set a boundary, because that surplus inside of me is finite. There's only so much of it. And I don't want somebody else that's taking it selfishly to take it from me. I don't. So setting that boundary is, it's not going to feel good because you're sort of chopping off the connection, but you're really just protecting yourself in that sense. So let me flip let me flip though to the other side, like back to the positive spin on this. So I believe that the root source of this, the guy treating, the man treating the woman on a first date, I believe that the root source of this is you need to demonstrate as a man that you have surplus.
Yeah.
And you need to demonstrate that you have surplus energy. You need to demonstrate that you have surplus attention, meaning I'm listening to what you're talking about. I'm not preoccupied by a million other things going on at work or in my life. I have this surplus of time and attention, and I have a surplus of financial resources. It's not a big deal. This isn't a strain on me to take you out for whatever it is that we're doing. Because the truth is, as a man, if I'm barely making my ends meet, or if I'm underwater and I really can't afford this, that is a red flag, gentlemen. If you can't afford, if you don't have extra in your budget, that's not going to be attractive to a woman. The social media world has convinced so many men, young and old, that if you're not a multimillionaire, women don't want you. This is totally not true. However, you do need to have some surplus in your finances to be able to spend and enjoy, to create these experiences that you're shared. And paying for a woman on the date simply because you can and you have these resources, it's not showing off. It's not being ostentatious in itself. It can turn that way if all you're doing is flashing cash around. But demonstrating that it's no big deal because you have extra money to spend, women, that's a signal to the woman that this man is financially established, that he's financially stable, that this man isn't going to end up mooching off of her at some point.
Right. Yeah, and that came up last night with my daughter and she had a friend that was here talking to, because her friend said her mother would say, well, you need to demonstrate that you're independent. So you need to be able to pay, or you need to offer to pay, or you need to pay some of the time, which gets us into it gets us into that mentality, right? These are young ladies that are getting this message around that. And I said, well,
right.
So my conversation was, well, so I am always going to pay, because if I can't afford to pay, I shouldn't be out on a date, was the first point I made, right, which is what you just said, right? Yeah. Like, I have resources to be able to do this, and that's going to carry over into a relationship and maybe a life together, so that you're demonstrating something. And so I did make that point. But the other point I wanted to bring up with them, and let's discuss this too, is this whole mindset of being independent, right, about this. And I said, we're not independent. We are not. We are all dependent, right, to some extent on women, and women are dependent on men. And this is just the design of life and the world and the differences between men and women. And this is a really good thing that is in our unique design of how we are. So when you get that mentality, so then I pivoted to the fact that it's good to be able to say, hey, well, let me pay. And this kind of gets into, like, if is this a soft offer? Are they insisting? Is it a hard stop when they say that? Or have they maybe been coached to be polite and say, hey, can I contribute? And then you say no. But let's talk about, so those are two different things, right? Okay. One is the fact that we are interdependent, and that is a good thing. So this whole independent mindset makes me freaking crazy, the equality thing. And that's where it gets into, what did I describe it as? The chivalry paradox, right? Like, they want this equality thing, but then they want to be wrong. Like, if we would just all come to understand we are interdependent upon each other, like what we're doing here is trying to like sort through that a little bit to help each other feel comfortable about it. So
Gotcha.
take it from there. That's a lot.
Okay, so the independence question, super important from a few angles. So personally, when I read Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it outlined this for me in very, very clear detail, and I thought it was amazing. And this is the overarching trajectory of the book. We start out as dependents. We're babies, we're children, we're 100% dependent on our parents. And at a certain point, once we reach our teenage years and young adult years, we're supposed to be transitioning from dependent to independent. And so we have to develop our independence as humans. We do have to. And then once we've established that we are self-sufficient, we can provide for ourselves, we have the means of doing that, then we turn towards each other and we realize we don't want to live completely disconnected and we don't want to live completely independent from each other. We want to have emerged into independence so that we're no longer dependent. We're no longer children. But once you have reached that independent state, you start looking for the opportunities to be interdependent with others. And we start having a we sense, a community. The difference is when you're forming bonds and connections with people that both people are coming from an independent mindset, the likelihood of that being a healthy attachment is much higher. When people that are coming to it that are still in a dependent mindset, they're psychologically, they haven't done their work, they're still in, some bad habits from childhood. And then they're trying to, they go into pair bonding as adults. Well, that's not going to be the most healthy attachments because they haven't established their own independence. So as a broad sense of the word independence, there's that. Now, let me speak to women's independence from men. For me, it is a very, very, very simple situation. Women have an incredible amount of independence and power, and it's wrapped up in one word. The word is no. When a woman says no, she exercises 100% independence. Mm-hmm. And women should say no until they find something that they really like. Women should be saying no fairly often because a guy is not bringing to the table what they're looking for. Men, we draft the invitations, we slide them across the table. All a woman has to do is say no. No, thank you. Not right now. No, I'm not really that interested. That's all you have to say as a woman to assert your independence. Everything else, you don't need to demonstrate that you make money on your own. You don't need to, that all is, I said no, so I'm maintaining my separation. I will take care of myself. I am no longer your concern because I simply said no. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, that's all a woman really needs to say is no in order for her to do it. Now, backfill that. Do I have the strength of character? Do I have my independent job where I can say no and it doesn't stress me out as a woman? Yeah, you do want to get your stuff, your ducks in order so that you're not, desperately, leaning on a man for whatever it is. Yes, of course, but that's just backfilling. All you have to do to assert your independence as a woman is to say no. I mean, it's right. Really that simple.
Well, but in doing that, we all just need to come to the table accepting the fact that, yeah, okay, we do know that women can and are independent these days, right? Like, well, it's not that is how life is. And so I think that what happens, and so I agree with you 100%. Like, the no just demonstrates the independence, right? That's perfect. But the underlying assumption has to be everybody that comes to the table just knows that we can each all be independent. Women are independent. They're no longer, it's no longer a society where they're showing up on a date looking for a husband because they need to have a husband how it was maybe 70 or 80 years with that expectation. So that's not happening anymore. So if we just have the underlying agreement that, yep, I know that you probably could be independent. You could probably pay for this yourself. You might make money. Like, okay, that's all good. We all know that. That's great. Like, if everybody just accepts that, you don't have to prove it. I don't have to prove, like, let's just, like, why does that even have to be out there anymore? And if we just,
yeah,
because why?
because we're playing out of different rule books. What you just said would be beautiful, but you're basically saying if we could all just agree on this one page of the rule book being the same, this problem would go away. I agree with you. And Jude, when you're king of the world, I hope you do rewrite that page of the rule book and you let and everybody plays out of it. It would be simpler in a lot of ways if we did. The problem is when we are saying, why can't everyone just read from the same page of the same rule book? That's asking the question that leads to us getting butthurt. For me, I look at it as it's much simpler than that, particularly in a society where people have different expectations and different reasons. All women have to say is no. And the minute they do, that is a clean break. They don't have to explain themselves. They don't have to justify it to anyone. They don't even have to justify it to themselves. They can just say, I'm choosing to say yes because I want to, and I'm choosing to say no because I don't want to. That is full, pure independence. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Your reasons are your own reasons. And you can play out of whatever page of the rule book that you want. I come to the table assuming that if a woman wants to be there, that a woman is there because she said yes and wants to be there. And I'm assuming that a woman knows at any point that she can say no and walk away. And if she doesn't know that, quite frankly, that's not my fault.
Right.
It's not my job to demonstrate that. That is moving from the dependency of childhood and attachment into adulthood. Adults say no thank you to this and heck yes to this. That's what adults do. They have the power of distinction between saying yes to something and no to something else. That's a decision. That's all you have to do to assert your independence.
Right. Okay. So maybe the mindset shift is you can just know that, right? Like, she's independent, no is no. That's okay. That's great. Perfect. And if you are doing that, you're going to be showing up in a way that you're comfortable with that. And you're comfortable then with being assertive in wanting to pay for coffee or whatever. And then even if she is maybe objecting, whether that is a true objection or not a true objection or just being nice, you can just feel comfortable with like, hey, I invited you. I'd like to pay for coffee, or sometimes I'll say like I'd love to be able to. I'd love to pay for coffee this morning. Or are you comfortable with me paying for coffee or something like that? Usually I just do it, right? Yeah. And then you're creating that experience again, like you're trying to take through. And I think even if you do get a hard objection, like no, I would really feel much comfortable. That's even an opportunity, I think, to be able to be in your masculine and be able to say something like, hey, that's great, but I'd love for you to be my guest. Like, how about next time you can get that even gives you an even more, because some of this is them testing, right? Like testing to see where you're at, how are you going to feel, like, are you going to show up butthurt, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to get butthurt when she says no? No, I'm not going to get butthurt, but I want to create. And here's the other thing, Dallas, and maybe we can comment a little bit that I don't know that women quite understand, but men enjoy like taking women out, helping women, being providers, protectors. Like inherently, the majority of men find pleasure and desire to do that for women. I know that that's something for me. Lots of guys that I talk to are like, and so when I'm coming from a place like that, when I'm on a date with a woman or when I'm dating women, it's like, I'll just say like, I like doing this. This is enjoyable. Right. It's fun to have a new experience with you, or take you somewhere you've never been, or show you something that you've never seen, or something like that. That's kind of neat and fun. And that's where they respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. And we do enjoy it as men. I mean, we feel like a boss. We feel like a king when we're able to treat, when we're able to do it. And let's just point out, I feel like a king when I treat other men. I feel like a king when I pay for, the people at the table next to me at the restaurant. This is a good feeling that we have. It's not just in a romantic context.
Yes.
Okay. here's the tricky part in the negotiation in these moments, because it is kind of like an emotional, sort of thing, and people are coming to it from different places. So here's I think probably the most important thing for a man to have in mind when he wants to treat a woman. And this is, again, appreciating and having compassion for where she's coming from, where we don't feel this way as guys. The rule of reciprocity in human social interactions is really, really, really strong. Reciprocity is, you did something for me, I feel a sense of obligation to do something for you in return. This man paid for something for me, I'm going to feel an obligation inside of me to give something back, or I'm going to feel that he feels entitled to something back from me. I don't want to be pressured into doing anything I don't want to do as a woman. That right there, that's the heart of the conflict inside of the woman. So you have to understand. And again, as a man, the woman is, flip the tables for a minute. I'm a man. The woman's like, well, I really want to, it's like, let me pay for dinner or whatever. I'm like, okay, wonderful. Thank you. And it's like in the back of my mind, oh, geez, I hope she doesn't want me to have to like hook up with her later, or I hope she's not hoping that I'm just going to say yes to another date. I mean, these are not problems that men face. Like this
Right.
is, we're not worried about that pressure. It's like, oh, is she hoping that I'm going to come home later and like clean the gutters on her house? It seems like a far-fetched idea, like that's just not the way that negotiation plays out. So we're used to receiving this with no strings attached. We are. Women are not. Women are used to guessing what strings may or may not be attached. So step one as a guy is realize this is what this woman is going through. To varying degrees of intensity, women are going to ask themselves this. And first of all, remember that woman saying no, that is her full independence. You don't have to overcompensate. She has to be able to say no. That's treating her like an adult. Now, knowing that there's going to potentially be this push and pull inside of her and this stress based on reciprocity, if you want to be as effective as possible, you want to make statements similar to what you just said in your examples. You want to demonstrate and say, this is not in exchange for something. This is not a transaction. I'm not trying to put you on the hook. I mean, yes, I want you to have a good experience. And yes, I want to see you again, but I'm not trying to buy your affection. I'm not trying to pressure you into anything. And we don't have to say those words, but we can say other words like what you did. Like, I just enjoy doing this. So you're saying you're doing it because I enjoy it. Okay, well, now she knows what your motivation is. Your motivation is you enjoy doing it. Some other statements that I do is, first of all, just downplay it. Like we're up at the coffee shop, we're doing it. I know it's, a lot of times my actual strategy at the coffee shop is we both show up together. I order my coffee and he says anything else. He says it to me. And I said, yeah, what would you like? And we're just ordering. It's transactional, and she says, she'll be like, oh, do you want me to do it? I was like, no, it's no big deal. And when I say no big deal, I am literally downplaying this like it's no big deal. So the idea that she owes me something is being diminished as much as possible. If we're like checking out, I don't know, like we're going on a picnic or something and we're at the cash register and we're like, well, what do we do? I was like, no, I got this. It's no big deal. And again, I'm making it like the money isn't a big deal. That also demonstrates the surplus of the financial resources. But again, inside of her, he said it's no big deal. He's not making a big deal out of it. It's like we don't have to worry about splitting this. This isn't that much.
I wanted to also add another thing that in my mind I try to do kind of when I know that this is happening or we're coming to this point. And this might be maybe when you're dating a little more and buying dinners or doing something like that, is I try to maybe talk about the experience and how much it's been enjoyable, right? Yeah. Like to get the mind off of something specific around money and be like, wow, this was really a nice evening. I loved dinner. There was food. We tried like talk about that. And then a check comes in. It's not like, and it's more about, hey, yeah, I'm creating this experience. And then if they go, whatever, then it makes it less of a like a weird thing or an awkward situation. It's like, she's in her experience. If you've got her in the thinking about the experience, then she's not thinking about like the reciprocity thing, right? Like not thinking about, well, now what is he going to want or whatever. She's
Exactly.
in that experience.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, it's no big deal. That's fine. I got it. Like whatever.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
mitigates everything. But it's kind of a timing thing. You gotta think through it a little bit. But really, if you're really good, which I'm not, but if you're really good, this experience is all happening really naturally. Like you are having a good time, and then maybe the check comes and whatever, and you're paying, and then there's no conversation, right? Like it's just part of the experience.
Yeah. That's the ideal place, is to get into a place where the conversation is flowing. You have a million tangents and so much to talk about. You're having such a great time that you even forgot that you have to pay for this dinner because you're so swept up in the moment. It gets there. She is so in her feminine that she doesn't even notice that the waiter dropped it off and you put it, and or she went to the bathroom and came back and she's like, "Oh, we have to pay." And it's like, "No, I already got that." And again, you're making it no big deal. I love also when in the example you just gave, you were focusing on the experience, and that's taking the pressure off of her. If you're talking about how beautiful she is and you're making the experience focused on her, and then you're paying for something, then it seems again kind of transactional.
Yeah.
If it's a meal or something and the check is coming, they're like, "Would you like to split it?" I was like, actually, no, let me get it. I'm having such a great time. I'd love to pay. And when I just say I'm having an enjoyable experience, notice there that I'm talking about, if you want to look at it transactionally, I'm paying for the experience that's already been had. I'm not paying for an experience I'm hoping to have after we leave the restaurant.
Great point.
And when you said it that way, that's again, that releases some of the tension and angst and worry and concern inside of her. It puts her at ease. It causes her to relax. And then she's operating from a place of her own desire. She's saying yes because she wants to. She's not saying yes out of reciprocity. And this is
back to the mindset, right? Like how you're showing up, which, excuse me, I think is important, because here's another thing that dads that we experience is the fear of how we look getting back into the dating pool, right? Like, so we went through a tough ringer. Like the house might be gone, half of our retirement is gone. We might feel broke, we might feel less than. If you're showing up like that, guys, that is going to translate into what's going on. It's going to become transactional. You're going to be, I think that's a great point. Like you're talking about, I'm paying for, what am I paying for something in the future, or I'm paying for the experience we had. If you're showing up that this is going to be just an enjoyable time, you're creating a fun time. You can even look at it from a standpoint of being entertained. Like you're going out and you're being entertained, you're entertaining, and you have the opportunity to have this beautiful woman with you in this, in this experience, which who doesn't want a beautiful woman to go experience dinner or theater or a hike or like whatever else? Like you're having this experience, and this kind of goes back to Dr. Glover's stuff of like, you're baking that cake and she's the icing on the cake, right? We're not diminishing the fact that or what she brings to that, but if you've got that mindset that you're creating this experience, the experience is for you, but it's augmented by the fact that you have her there and with you, and hopefully she's going to be enjoyable. That's going to be a completely different mindset that you show up with. You're going to have to show up with, but it's going to be a completely different experience that she's having and you're having. And it's going to be this awkward stuff, some of these conversations, it's really going to fall by the wayside if you are in the right mindset.
Yeah, it is. It is. The money enables the experience. That's all it is. The money just unlocks it. And even when you talk about bigger ticket items, like I'm going to take my girlfriend to Hawaii, for a trip, and you're shelling out, multiple thousands of dollars. Again, I'm demonstrating what my surplus financial picture looks like. I'm demonstrating what I can afford. It's not about the money. It's about the experience. The money is there just to allow the experience. It's one of the components that allows the experience to take place. Now I want to switch it around to something that I'm sure is on your notes, even though we haven't really brought it up, which is allowing the woman to also contribute and pay some of the time.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna wrap up with is like, okay, so then like we talked about the red flag of the woman that shows up and orders to like, okay, that's real easy.
Yeah.
That's real easy to figure out, right? And see. But so you're dating maybe a couple dates, and then you want to, the dynamics got to shift like a little bit because you're looking maybe for somebody that wants to be a partner in this, right? So then how does that transition and how do you work through that?
Okay, so I believe we brought this up in an episode way back when. There are basically two orientations that a person can have when they're dating. They're either investing resources or they're extracting resources. Those resources can be sexual resources, they can be attention, they can be time, they can be emotional intelligence, they can be, handyman skills around the house. All of these things come in. Money is also one of those resources.
Right.
The red flag woman that's just looking for free drinks and a free meal, she's looking to extract resources, financial resources, as well as some time and attention from a man. If that's what you're looking for in a woman, go ahead. If that's the game that you want to play. Most healthy relationships that really have longevity to them, that are not, especially if both people are extracting resources, that's called transactional. Man's extracting what he wants, woman's extracting what she wants, and that's transactional. That can work. That can work. Yeah. But let's call a spade a spade. It's like, I won't go into any famous examples, probably because I can't remember the famous names. But we all know this exists. This is
and they're really young, hot chick,
absolutely, right? So, but I personally like and enjoy and feel that there is more longevity to a relationship in which both people are looking to invest resources. So, as a man, I'm taking the lead. I'm investing through an invitation. I'm investing by, them coming out, and I'm also investing some financial resources to pay for these experiences so that the experience can happen. That's why I'm really paying. I'm not paying transactionally to get something from her. I'm paying so that we can be here enjoying whatever, this comedy show. Like, I'm doing it so that we can enjoy the evening and have the experience together. Now, at a certain point, I have to ask myself, is this woman also investing into these experiences with me?
Right.
Now, do I expect her to invest 50-50? The whole point, that kind of kills the experience to be counting like that. Like, I consider a friend of mine to be a good friend when we don't know who paid last, but it's dumb for us to split the bill while we're at the bar. I paid this time. Did you pay last time? I don't know. I think you did. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, both of us could pay, and we're not keeping track, and we're both investing in our shared experience. That's what a healthy dynamic feels like. Eventually, on the date, it should be similar. Both people are investing financially, where it's like, okay, well, I paid for dinner and I paid for this, and she's like, well, let me grab the drinks at the comedy club this time.
Right.
And I think it's important to see that demonstrated. I've definitely been on women, and it'll be 4 or 5 dates, and these will be multi-part dates where we did have dinner and then went to a show, and then we went somewhere else. And she's saying thank you all over the place, but not once ever offered to pay for even a small thing. And for me, it became pretty clear that I felt like I'm the only one investing in a certain side of this. Maybe that woman is coming from a social background where women don't ever pay, period, full stop. Maybe she does. And I could ask about that. But all I know is the feeling that I'm getting, it doesn't feel very good to me. And I'm not really enjoying it. Or if the woman is reciprocating in other ways, or maybe we have a huge income discrepancy. If she's much younger than me, she's in school, doesn't have a lot of money, and, maybe she was recently divorced and going back to get a nursing degree, and I'm sitting pretty, because I've had my 6-figure job for a while. My expectations of her paying, it's like, well, this just, why she doesn't have much money, but the real thing is, it's not about the money. It's about the experience. And are both people investing resources, or do you feel like they're actually extracting resources? And as far as I'm concerned, you got to trust your gut on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because investing into the experiences is what's building the relationship, right? Like each of these experiences are what lead to the relationship and where the relationship is going. And so, and you made, I feel like you hit it on the head, which was, are they, and resources can be different. It can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be just effort, right? Like like you talked about the picnic. Well, did she plan to bring a blanket, or bring, to help you make a part of the plan, or pick out where you're going, or whatever it might be. Like, there are other ways in which, and this vice versa too, right? There are other ways that you can also be contributing to the experiences that are not just financial. And that's really important too, especially to women. If you are wanting to have this long-term relationship, maybe it's somebody that you want to introduce to your kids to eventually. She's going to be investing these resources, whatever they might be. It might not just be financial, but she's going to be investing these into each of these experiences, and she's going to understand, and I feel like you're going to know that she values a dollar. She knows that you're putting this into a woman that's in her feminine and that is healthy, is going to do a couple things. She's going to acknowledge, number one, right? And she's going to appreciate, number two, right? Like, usually if she's healthy and there is this dynamic and there might be a disparity of, let's just say, specifically financial resources, she's still going to acknowledge, and she's going to appreciate.
That's huge.
And so those, I think, are two things to look for when you're doing this. If she is acknowledging and if she is appreciating, because like your situation, I've been on dates and I've dated people where I just knew I was going to be paying. It was just the disparity, but she always acknowledged and she always appreciated the fact that I was doing that. And that's all I needed. Like, I didn't need, because that was her contribution to the experience, because I want to feel that. I want to feel acknowledged. I want to feel appreciated. And that's all I needed. Like, and the whole experience was awesome, right? Because she was there, she was engaged, she showed up looking good. Like, some of the things that I want from a woman on a date.
Yeah. I mean, and the truth is, we're not paying on a date so that a woman will pay for us on another day, on another date. Right. Like, that is so not our motivation as a man. Like, we're paying and we're creating this experience because we want the woman to feel happy, relaxed, lighthearted, carefree, playful, and horny. Like, that's what we want the woman to feel in our company. And we want her to feel that way in our company, the way she never has with any other man ever in history or going forward. That is what we want. And again, we're not trying to buy it. We're trying to step into an experience when she's with us, she just, for some reason, feels that way. That's what we're shooting for. And when you see it that way, when you see the experiences as enabling, states and emotions inside of us, the money really becomes not all that important. And if the money still is important to you, either one, your financial game is not on point, or two, you have an attachment and an importance to money that is disproportionate, and it's going to get in your way. If you as a guy are preoccupied and counting in your mind how much you've paid and how much she's paid, you have to ask yourself, like, are you, is how important is money to you? Is this kind of a distracting figure for you? And to your other point, I know you said it beautifully. I just want to reiterate it. Money can't be the only resource that you're contributing. Yeah. You need to be a good listener. You need to bring good vibes to the table. If all you are is the guy that pays for everything, go find a prostitute. Like, that's what a prostitute is sex for money. If all you want a woman to look for from you is money, and you don't want to have to be emotionally present, you don't want to have to be present in other ways. And I'm guessing a lot of the dads listening to this, probably this isn't a problem for them because they have, gotten to this place. So I'm thinking of it from, a single man who's never been married and doesn't have kids. but there might be some dads listening that this is an issue. It may have even been an issue, one of the issues in your marriage. Money you don't want to lean on it. Some people really, they grew up in environments where money was a very toxic thing. It was a tool that people used to control people, have leverage. You want to ask yourself, when you're paying, if you have to pay, that's kind of a red flag. If you need to be in charge, if you have these strict, rigid rules around money and dating, you want to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, where's that coming from? I just want to throw those ideas out there.
Yeah. And so maybe we've covered a ton and a lot of good stuff. Maybe we can summarize. The first thing is your mindset, right? So and we talk every episode, it comes down to this, guys. You're going to hear us talk about this every single episode. It comes down to your mindset and where you're at in getting ready and preparing yourself to date. So if your mindset is good around this, you're not feeling what I described earlier, lack, or that you're broke or anything like that, then that's good, because you're going to show up in a different way. She's going to feel the vibes around that. So that is a number one. The other is what we also talked about was that we just know that women can be independent these days, and that no is a full sentence, and that's okay. That's her exerting her independence. And don't get butthurt. It's okay. That's good. And it's not a bad thing. It actually can be an objection that you can overcome that actually is going to probably lead to better things for you in the future if you're not butthurt around that.
Yeah. And let her say no. If she wants to split the bill, demonstrate that you're a guy that's flexible and say, sure, let her buy independently. Let her warm up and feel comfortable to you at the rate that she needs to. If she needs to split the bill for the first, 2 or 3 dates, that's fine. She needs that boundary in place in order for her to feel safe and comfortable. Let her do it. I mean, you're doing it because she said she needs to in order to feel safe. That's fine. And you feel like, hey, I'd love to pay this time. And if she's got some issue with, well, I don't want to be in a place where I feel like beholden to a man or something, then you can say, I'm just having a good time. The money isn't a big deal. And does she relax and let down that boundary at a certain point and invite and let you give her enjoyable experiences? Or is she got her guards up really high and doesn't really want to let a man, she doesn't want to make herself that vulnerable or open to a man giving her that kind of experience? And if that's the case, respect it. Let her be that way. And realize that she's not giving you the experience you want as a man. You're not enjoying her company nearly as well as you could. This is not a question of right and wrong. This isn't morals. This isn't trying to go into her rule book and rewrite the page to fit the way you think it should be. That's even worse than being butthurt by somebody's page being different than yours, is trying to change their rule book. Show them where you're coming from. And if they don't like the sound of it, let it go and find somebody that's like, oh, I love that you like to pay. I mean, there are plenty of women that still love the chivalry, paradox. They love it when a man opens the door for them. They love it when a man makes the effort. I can tell you, they all love it when you fix their water heater. There isn't a single woman out there that's like, oh, well, no, I want to fix my own water heater. Like, who? It's like when a guy shows up and does that, it's always good. Yeah.
Right. So we can summarize that last point as creating the experience. Like be in there, creating experience, and understand that the collective experiences are what then create the relationship. So if you can if you've got to chunk it down and think of it in a male brain kind of way, think of it that way, like these experiences. And I like what you said also is check into what your experience is too, because that's important. If you're not having the experience that you want, then that's the sign. That and I like that. That's the sign. Like, okay, well, she's not contributing to the experience how I want to. Hopefully, you're having conversations and you're communicating, like we've talked about in some past episodes. And that's fine too. That's good. This is all feedback, right? This is all feedback, and it helps you cut the cord and be done with it before it becomes more difficult or challenging or a problem, etc. And that's perfectly fine also as well. So Dallas, this was awesome conversation. It went nowhere how I anticipated as usual. So I love that. I appreciate your feedback. Where can the guys get in touch with you? And do you have any events coming up also? I know you had one last week. Do you have anything coming up here soon?
Not in the rest of 2025. Holiday season's coming up. Okay. Me and my collaborators are just kind of taking a break. If you want to follow up, I'm actually going to suggest that you get on Jude's mailing list, because we are doing a monthly Q&A dating discussion, where I'm on board and your guys are there. We had an awesome discussion last week. Yeah. I would say the first place to start really is jump on Jude's mailing list. I'll let you give the address for that. For the guys that want to check me out specifically, jump over to blackboxdating.com. You can click on the media tab, and that'll take you to all my social media channels. And if you like what you hear, check out the coaching program, live interactions every week. And on the higher levels, you can get into live in the field work with me personally. Yeah. And Jude,
I got a lot of great feedback we had a lot of guys on the call, but I got a lot of great feedback from guys on that Q&A that we had last week. The next one looks like, I think we've got coming up December 18th. So if you go to thedivorcedadvocate.com, and right on the homepage is just join our email list, then you'll get a reminder of everything that's going on when we're having it. Or you can just go to the calendar itself, and then you can link your calendar to our calendar, and it'll just show up in your calendar. So you can download each of those events that are coming up, and they'll just sync right to your calendar. So we've got it set up that way.
And Jude, are these free events at the moment for the people on the mailing list? Or
yeah, so some stuff is free. This Q&A that we're doing, Ask a Dating Coach, you've been gracious enough to donate your time, and we spent an hour going through and just kind of talking about a topic, and then Dallas took a ton of great questions from guys this past session, and we had really robust conversation around things, which I know we always have a robust conversation. When we get guys involved, it's even more fun to go back and forth and talk about this stuff. So check it out. Yeah. So these ones are free for you guys, but I know we're also we're planning some stuff in the new year in the first quarter to do in person and live, and maybe go on some deeper dives as well. So we got a lot of stuff planned. That's the point. Yeah. Get involved. Get involved in Dallas's community. Get involved with the divorced advocate community, and you guys will be covered.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know necessarily what the guys are going to bring to the discussions, but I love that our last Q&A, like, we were getting shots out of left field. All different stuff. I think it's Chris Voss. Right. What was the book?
The negotiation guy. Yeah.
Yeah, never split the difference, I think. Yeah, lots of good stuff coming up. And I love this. I come alive under pressure. So I love it when people have, just completely different points of views and different experiences that they're bringing in. It makes for a very exciting call. And they're free right now. At some point, we're probably going to have to be charging for it. So get in there now while you guys still can, and get on the mailing list.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dallas, thank you. This was awesome. Gentlemen, if you found some value in it, please share it far and wide on social media. Give us a star rating on the platform you're listening, or even better, give us some comments. We'd love to hear comments, so give us some comments. We will respond to all of them. And Dallas, have a great week. We'll chat next week.
You too, Jude. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do?